He faked his own death to uncover the truth about his family's love. But what he discovered was far more disturbing than betrayal. Why did his son try to destroy him? What was his wife hiding? And who was the woman who helped him rise again? Stay tuned, because the final truth will shock you to the core. You won't believe how this story ends. Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss a single episode of our powerful, life-changing content. Like, comment, and share this channel with others who believe in the power of second chance. This is more than just entertainment. Each story carries a deep moral lesson designed to inspire, uplift, and transform your perspective. He faked his own death to test his family's love, but the truth was even more shocking. I stood on the cliff's edge, staring down at the roaring waves below.
The wind was cold,
sharper than the silence that had grown between me and my family. I had everything.
$1 billion empire,
A name the world respected.
but somehow,
I had no one I could truly trust. When you rise from dirt to diamonds, you start questioning every smile,
every hug,
every "I love you."
was it real?
Or just a transaction? That question, it haunted me. I built my life brick by brick.
No handouts, no shortcuts, only scars.
But what broke me was not business, not failure. It was love, or the illusion of it. My wife, my son, my brother. They stood by me through success. But when I stumbled, even slightly,
Their warmth changed.
whispers replaced words. Distance replaced dinners.
Silence.
That was the loudest betrayal of all. So I did something unthinkable.
I vanished. A staged car crash. A burnt wallet. A closed coffin. The world mourned.
But I watched from the shadows.
Waiting. Hoping. They cried on TV.
Posted tributes.
Tears flowed.
But I wanted truth, not theater. So I became someone else.
A janitor.
In my own foundation's orphanage. Hidden beneath a beard. I swept the same marble floors I had paid for. And that is when I met her.
Alina.
She was not a CEO.
Not a socialite.
Just a volunteer.
Kind. Gentle. Unshakably honest.
She smiled at every child. Held the broken ones a little longer.
She never looked at me twice.
Not as the billionaire I was, but as the man I had become, lost, silent, invisible.
And yet, she saw me.
Really saw me. One evening, she handed me a torn sweater. Said softly, "Cold nights break the hardest hearts.
Take this."
No one had offered me warmth in years.
That night, I cried.
For the first time since I faked my death. The next day, I cleaned the bathroom floors while Alina read stories to orphans.
Her voice was soft.
But every word held the power to heal.
She told them, "You are not forgotten.
Someone out there loves you." I wondered, had anyone ever told me that?
Weeks passed.
I watched her choose service over salary, truth over flattery,
Love over pride.
She taught me that greatness is not in towers,
But in tenderness.
One rainy morning,
She found me in the garden.
shoes soaked, hands trembling. She knelt beside me, asked, "What are you running from?"
I looked into her eyes.
There was no judgment, only understanding. I whispered, "I lost everything trying to have it all."
She said, "Then maybe now,
You will find what really matters." That broke something in me, and built something new.
in that moment, I realized,
She was the answer to the question I asked on that cliff.
what is real?" She was. The next night,
I opened my old safe under cover of darkness. Inside was a letter,
written by my wife.
dated a week after my death. I knew you were watching.
You always loved drama.
If you are out there,
Do not come back.
everything works better without you.
Below it, a legal document.
Power of attorney. Signed over to my brother.
And another, my son.
Had sold my company's stocks.
All of them. For luxury cars. A mansion. And parties. Not grief.
Not legacy.
Just greed.
I dropped the letter. My hands were shaking. But I did not cry.
I smiled.
Because finally, I had my answer. And I knew what I had to do next. But before I revealed myself, before the truth would erupt like wildfire, there was one more person I had to see.
Alina.
She deserved to know everything. To know who I really was. So I stood outside the orphanage, heart racing, rain falling, and as she stepped out the door, our eyes met. She froze, then whispered, "Why do I feel like I already know you?" I took a breath. The truth was ready, but the world was not. Not yet. She stood there, eyes locked on mine, not with fear, not with doubt, but with something deeper. Recognition. Not of the billionaire I used to be, but of the man behind the silence. I stepped forward. The wind carried the scent of wet earth and lavender. Her perfume. The same she wore every Tuesday. "Alina," I said, voice trembling. "I have something to tell you." She tilted her head, hands gently clasped in front of her. "Go on." I pulled out my old ID. Weathered. Cracked. My real name staring back at her. Elias Romanov. Her eyes widened. Not in horror, but in slow, dawning clarity. "You are him," she whispered. I nodded, afraid of what would come next. She looked away. Not out of anger, but to steady herself. The silence stretched, and in that fragile space between us, my heart collapsed under years of grief. "I did not do it to hurt anyone," I said. "I did it to see who would love me without the money, who would stand by me when I was no one." Tears welled in her eyes, but she did not cry. Instead, she stepped forward and placed her hand on my chest. "Then you already have your answer," she said softly. "Because the people who truly love never count what they can gain." Her touch melted every wall I had built. All my life, I chased power, control, validation. But in that single moment, I felt seen, loved, free. I wanted to tell her everything. The betrayal, the manipulation, the way my wife toasted champagne just hours after my funeral. But Alina, she did not ask for proof. She did not need details. She simply said, "Come back to life. But this time, choose who you live for." I nodded. But the next chapter would not be easy. Revealing the truth would burn bridges, unmask wolves, shake the empire I had built with my own blood. And yet, I was ready. Because this time, I was not alone. But just as I reached for her hand, a voice called from behind. Raspy, familiar, dangerous. "Elias." I turned, and there stood my brother, rain dripping from his coat, a pistol tucked beneath it. His eyes narrowed, but not in shock. He knew. He always knew. "You were never supposed to come back," he said. His voice cold. Final. Alina gasped. I stepped in front of her, my hands raised. No fear, just clarity. Because now, the real test had begun. My brother's eyes were fire, but his hands, they trembled. That small shake, it told me more than his words ever could. He was not just angry, he was scared. Of what would happen if the truth surfaced. Of what I still knew. "Put it down, Victor," I said quietly. "You do not want to do this." He laughed. A bitter, hollow sound. "I already did everything else, Elias. What is one more lie? One more ghost buried?" Alina clutched my sleeve. But she did not scream. She stood tall, like a lighthouse in a storm. Her presence gave me strength. "I trusted you," I said, my voice steady now. "I gave you everything, and you sold it for applause." Victor's jaw tightened. "That empire? It was suffocating you. You were always chasing more. And we were just shadows in your path." My heart ached. Not from the betrayal, but from how long he must have carried that resentment. "It did not have to be this way," I said. "You could have come to me, told me how you felt. We could have rebuilt together." He shook his head, rain soaking his face, but his eyes, still burning. "You always had the world's sympathy, even when you failed. Even now, when you are dead." He raised the gun, pointed it not at me, but at Alina. And that broke every last restraint inside me. "No!" I shouted, launching forward. My body collided with his. The gun fired. Once. A flash. A deafening crack. The world spun. Alina's scream shattered the air. And then, silence. We hit the ground. Hard. Mud and blood and truth all mixing in the dirt beneath us. The gun slipped from Victor's hand.
His breath shallow, eyes wide. I pulled away, heart pounding.
My shoulder stung.
Burning.
Alina rushed to my side, her hands shaking,
but her touch still gentle.
"You are hit."
"I am fine," I whispered.
"I need you to call the police.
Now."
She nodded and ran. I looked down at Victor.
Still alive. Still staring. "What have you become?" I asked. He laughed. This time softer. Almost childlike.
"I became what you were too blind to see, brother. A man with nothing left to lose." Sirens echoed in the distance.
Closer now.
Alina knelt beside me again,
Tears in her eyes. But she smiled.
"You came back to life, Elias. Now fight for it."
I gripped her hand.
My voice barely a whisper.
"With you. I will."
And in that moment, as the blue lights danced across our faces,
I knew.
this was not the end.
It was the beginning. Of redemption. Of truth.
Of love that chose me not for who I was,
But for who I had become. But the storm.
it was not over yet. Because the media would soon discover I was alive. The world would demand answers.
My son. My wife.
They would not go down quietly. And what they were hiding was far more dangerous than I had ever imagined. The sirens grew louder.
Closer.
But time felt like it slowed. Every second stretched, suspended between who I had been and who I was about to become. Alina's hand stayed wrapped in mine.
Warm. Steady. Real.
Paramedics rushed toward us.
Blue uniforms, pale faces.
One knelt beside Victor, another beside me.
I let go of the pain. Not because it stopped, but because I knew.
It no longer owned me. I am Elias Romanov. I told the officer. My death was staged.
And now,
You are going to want to hear everything. His eyes widened. He grabbed his radio. Everything around me erupted into movement.
stretchers. Flashing lights.
Cameras already gathering in the distance.
It had begun.
But even in the chaos, my eyes stayed fixed on Alina.
She did not flinch. She did not run.
She stood like truth itself, unapologetic and unafraid. They loaded me into the ambulance. Alina climbed in beside me.
No one questioned it.
And inside that humming metal box, as the city flew past us in streaks of light,
I turned to her.
"There is more," I whispered. "More than what my family did."
She nodded. "I know." I blinked. Surprised. "How?" Her eyes softened.
"There is always more, Elias. Pain does not travel alone. It brings secrets with it." I exhaled, felt the weight in my chest shift. "I need to go back," I said.
To the estate. To my office.
There are files.
Documents.
Things I buried long before I buried myself.
Alina leaned in.
Her voice barely audible over the sirens. "I will go with you. Whatever they try to take from you again, they will have to go through me." Those words. I had spent my whole life waiting to hear them.
Not just loyalty, but belief.
We arrived at the hospital. Flashing bulbs exploded outside the doors. Reporters.
Media vans.
Crowds with signs, some mourning, some angry, some just hungry for scandal.
But I was ready.
Because now, it was not just about proving I had lived. It was about proving I had changed. They wheeled me in. But even from the gurney, I could see the shadow moving down the hallway.
A figure. Elegant. Familiar. My wife. Dressed in black. Not for mourning, but for war. She saw me. Stopped mid-step. Her face paled. Not with grief, but with rage. The mask slipped. She was not surprised. She knew. I could see it in her eyes. She walked toward me, every step sharp like broken glass. And when she reached my side, she leaned down, smiling sweetly for the cameras. But her voice was venom. "You should have stayed dead, Elias." I stared up at her, calm, unshaken. "Funny," I said. "Because now the whole world gets to see who you really are." She blinked. Just once. And in that blink, everything shifted. Because the truth I carried was not just about betrayal. It was about something darker. A secret buried in my company's files. A name. A transaction. A disappearance. And now that I was alive,
So was the danger.
Alina stepped forward. Between us. Protecting me, again.
I grabbed her hand. Held it like a lifeline. Because the storm was not passing. It was just beginning. Security surrounded us. But none of them moved.
They felt the tension.
Like a string pulled too tight, ready to snap.
My wife, Lana, tilted her head.
Her lips curved into that same rehearsed smile. She used at charity galas and board meetings. You think you know everything. She whispered. But you have no idea what I had to clean up after you vanished. I met her gaze.
Calm. Level. I was never the mess, Lana.
You were just very good at hiding yours.
She blinked. But only once. Then turned. And walked away.
Like nothing had happened. But I knew that walk. That silence. It was not surrender. It was strategy. She would not fight me in the hallway. She would fight me where power lives.
In courtrooms. In headlines.
In whispered deals and signed contracts. But I was not the man who faked his death anymore. I was the man who came back for justice. Doctors pulled me into a private room. Checked the wound on my shoulder.
It was clean.
Painful, but survivable.
Alina never left.
Not even when they told her to. She sat beside me. Fingers laced with mine. Her presence kept me grounded. I need to access my old servers, I told her. There are encrypted archives. Backups no one knew about. They hold the truth.
What kind of truth? She asked. I looked at her. Really looked. She deserved to know. But I hesitated.
Because what I was about to reveal could destroy more than my family's lies. It could destroy people I once protected. There were children, I finally said.
Abandoned ones.
Used by corporations for testing. I found out too late. And when I tried to shut it down, they made me disappear. Alina's face turned pale.
But she did not pull away.
Instead, she asked the one question no one else had ever asked. What can I do to help?
That moment.
That single question. Felt like redemption. But before I could answer,
my phone buzzed.
The number was unknown. But I recognized the sequence. Encrypted.
Internal.
It was from someone I thought long gone.
A whistleblower. Once loyal to me.
I answered. A voice crackled through.
Elias.
They know you are back. They are already moving the files. You have less than 48 hours before everything disappears.
Forever. The line went dead. I looked at Alina.
It is happening, I said.
Right now. She stood. No hesitation.
Then let us not waste a second.
We left the hospital against advice. Got into a black car.
Drove through back streets. Avoiding main roads. Watching every mirror. By the time we reached my abandoned estate,
it was midnight. The gates were open. That was wrong. Alina squeezed my hand. I reached into the glove box. Pulled out the hidden drive key.
We go in together, I said.
She nodded.
But the second we stepped inside, I knew someone had beaten us there. The lights were already on. Footsteps echoed from the upper floor. And a shadow moved across the balcony.
Not Victor. Not Lana. Someone else.
Someone I once trusted more than anyone.
My son.
He stepped into view. Dressed in my suit. Holding the master key to my office.
And in his eyes,
there was no welcome. Only warning. You should have stayed dead, Dad, he said.
And behind him, 2 men appeared. Armed.
This was no reunion.
This was a trap.
Alina reached for my hand again. But I was already stepping forward.
Not in fear. But in resolve.
Because I had been to the bottom. I had seen what love without loyalty looks like. And I was not leaving without the truth. I stared at my son. My own blood. Standing beneath the chandelier I had installed when he was 5. Back when he still called me hero. Now. He held the master key like a weapon. The men beside him shifted. One placing a hand over his holster.
But I did not flinch.
I had lost everything once. There was nothing left they could take that mattered more than the truth.
Evan, I said. My voice low, but steady.
What are you doing?
He laughed.
Not with amusement.
But with bitterness.
What I should have done years ago.
He said.
Taking control. Finishing what you started. But could never complete. Alina stepped beside me. Her presence, still grounding, still fierce. You think betrayal is strength? she asked him. You think this will make you powerful?
Evan's gaze shifted to her. A flicker of discomfort. But he quickly masked it. You do not understand, lady.
My father built an empire on pain. He buried secrets, abandoned his own values, and now he wants to come back and play the hero.
I took a step forward. The guards tensed. But I held up my hands. No threat. Only truth. You are right, I said. I made mistakes. Grave ones.
But I never stopped trying to protect you.
He looked away. Just for a second. A crack in his armor.
I never wanted this, I continued. I wanted a son who would rise with honor, not one who would tear everything down just to feel tall.
He clenched his jaw.
There are files in that vault, I said. Documents that could expose more than our family. They could bring justice to children who were harmed. You know this.
I know, Evan said.
That is why I came. To make sure they never leave this house.
His voice lowered. Dead calm. They paid me, Dad.
Years ago.
To keep quiet. To keep you quiet. And when you vanished, I took your place.
But now you are back. And they are afraid. Alina stepped closer to me. I could feel her breath.
Steady. Resolute.
You are still my son, I said. Voice cracking now. But this is not you.
This is fear.
This is pain twisting you into something you are not. His eyes welled for a moment. But he blinked the tears away. I came here to destroy those files, he said.
Nothing personal.
Just survival. Then you should know something, Alina said. Her voice like quiet thunder. I already copied the archives.
Evan's eyes widened. What?
I pulled out a second drive.
Thin. Discreet.
Encrypted. I gave her access the night I told her the truth, I said. If anything happened to me, she would release everything.
Evan looked between us.
Something inside him cracked. You would risk our name?
He hissed. Our legacy?
Our name means nothing if it is built on silence, I said. And legacy means nothing if it buries the innocent.
He stood frozen, breathing hard. The guards looked unsure now, their loyalty shaken. Please, I said, reaching out. Come back from this.
We can face the storm together.
Evan stared at my hand.
Longer than I expected.
And then, he turned his back, walked away. The guards followed, the vault key still in his hand. But he left the door open. Not locked. Not burned. Open. Alina touched my arm. You got through to him. No, I said, voice soft.
But I think his conscience did.
We walked into the vault. The air was cold. Metal shelves.
Steel cabinets. Dust and memory.
And at the center, a single black case. Inside, files. Videos. Names. Dates. Proof. I looked at Alina. Her eyes shimmered. You ready? She asked. I nodded.
And lifted the case. But the computer screen nearby flickered on. A message appeared. You are being watched.
Then, the lights cut out. Pitch black. Silence.
Only the sound of our breath. And somewhere behind us,
a floorboard creaked.
The power snapped back on.
The vault flooded with light.
The screen was blank now.
But I knew.
Someone had been watching. Still, I clutched the black case tightly to my chest. Alina stood beside me.
Unshaken. Unbreakable.
We left the estate before dawn. Took the long road. The quiet road. The honest road. That morning, I stood before the press.
No makeup.
No lawyers.
No rehearsed lines. Just me. And the truth.
I told the world what I had done. What my family had done. What powerful people had buried. I handed over the files. Every last one. Names. Documents. Footage. The news exploded. There were arrests. Investigations. And yes, revenge. Some tried to silence me again. But this time, I had the world listening. And I had her. Alina. Not just by my side, but at the heart of everything. She helped me rebuild. Not the empire. Not the wealth. But something far greater. Integrity. I started again. Small. Quiet. Deliberate. We opened centers for children who had no names. Gave them not just food and shelter, but dignity. Identity.
hope.
Evan never returned. But sometimes I hear whispers. That he is doing better. That he is helping others now. And I choose to believe that.
Because forgiveness is not weakness. It is wisdom. My wife Lana was sentenced. Justice was served. But still, a part of me mourns. Not for who she was, but for who she could have been. Victor, my brother. He wrote me from prison. A single line. You were always right. I just hated how much.
Sometimes I visit. Sometimes we sit in silence.
Not out of bitterness, but because healing takes time. Today,
I am not the man who faked his death. I am the man who chose to live again.
With truth. With humility. With love.
And if you ask me what I learned from it all, I will say this. Your greatest wealth is not in what you own, but in who still stands beside you when everything else is gone. Family is not made of blood. It is made of choices.
Of loyalty. Of kindness.
Of showing up when it is hard. And staying when it is easier to leave. Sometimes, you lose everything, just to find what truly matters. And that is the most priceless discovery of all. Thank you for listening to this heartfelt story. If it moved you, share it, comment below, and let someone know. You are never alone.
Moral lesson.
Do not measure love by what people say when you are winning. Measure it by who stays when you lose. Truth, no matter how painful, is always the beginning of healing. And when you rise again, rise with humility, not revenge. Rise with people who remind you that your soul is worth more than your empire. Thank you for being a part of this heartfelt journey. If this story touched your heart, please share it with someone who needs hope. Leave a comment below and remind the world. You are never truly alone.